Hi guys, how's going? Some of you have asked me to do reaction videos, in particular about very niche subjects like science, books, reviews, tutorials. Usually when I go on YouTube and I see reaction videos, they're about like songs or live performances. But in this case, a lot of people are asking me, what do you think about Elon Musk? What do you think about Richard Dawkins? I met Richard Dawkins in Dublin recently. What do you think about all the tutorials on YouTube that are not related to music? So one of the subjects that definitely has been surfacing internet and has been the subject probably of a lot of talks that I had with friends that are not into music, they're in diverse type of businesses and interests, is definitely artificial intelligence. And in this video, I want to do a reaction to something unusual, which is Sam Altman at TED Talks. And I actually been at a TED Talk it's a TEDx talk in Dublin, the Technology University of Dublin, a couple of weeks ago. And I joined TED as a member. And I also sent a proposal for a talk. But now let's get started. Obviously, for those of you that don't know who Sam Altman is, he is the man behind OpenAI, the actual company. And OpenAI, obviously, is the company behind ChatGPT, Sora, Suno, probably the next Google, maybe. Who knows? A lot of people are saying that Sam Altman will be ultimately the next Bill Gates. For sure, he's ahead of the time, and for sure, he's a really bright guy. But let's jump into this. This is Sam Altman, OpenAI, TED Talk. Is from 8 days ago, and today is the 20th of April, 2025. So this is something that has been uploaded on the TED website or the TED page on YouTube about 8 days ago. And TED Talks, most of the times, are interesting. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Sam, welcome to TED. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Your company has been releasing crazy, insane new models pretty much every other week, it feels like. I've been playing with a couple of them. I'd like to show you what I've been playing. Sora, this is the image and video generator. I asked Sora, what will it look like when you share some shocking revelations here at TED? You want to see how it imagined it? Not bad, right? How would you grade that? 5 fingers on all hands?
Very close to what I'm wearing.
I've never seen you quite that animated. You're not
A person.
so maybe a B plus. This one genuinely astounded me when I asked it with a diagram that shows the difference between intelligence and consciousness. Like, how would you do that? This is what it did. So simple, incredible. What is the kind of process that would allow? This is clearly not just image generation. It's linking into the core intelligences that your overall model has.
Yeah, the new image generation model is part of GPT-4o, so it's got all of the intelligence in there.
Now, I like the fact that the host has made a point about the hands, because I think up to 8 months ago, if you were trying to generate an image with tools like Midjourney, and Midjourney, in order to use it, you had to download Discord. You had like crazy stuff when it comes down to hands, feet, or certain details. And I find particularly interesting that Sora has a nice way of explaining concepts like what is consciousness, what is intelligence. And I believe this is because of the power of combining intelligence with deep reasoning, which is something that has been announced many times behind the GPT-4 capabilities. So it's a good start. It's a good sense of humor. Sense of humor is another thing that AI is growing, is starting to learn, because it's quite hard for an artificial intelligence to have a sense of humor.
And I think that's one of the reasons it's been able to do these things that people really love.
If I'm a management consultant and I'm playing with some of this stuff, I'm thinking, what does my future look like?
I think there's two views you can take. You can say, oh man, it's doing everything I do. What's going to happen? Or you can say, through every other technological revolution in history, okay, now there's this new tool. I can do a lot more. What am I going to be able to do? It is true that the expectation of what we'll have for someone in a particular job increases, but the capabilities will increase so dramatically that
This is another very good point, which came up many times. Every time that somebody has dubbed about what is going to happen with AI, and is to think that, yes, the whole job and scenario, the whole job landscape will definitely dramatically change. A lot of stuff that can be replaced by AI will be replaced by AI. And by AI, I don't mean necessarily just ChatGPT, any technology that can automate jobs that require repetitive tasks, repetitive things to do. But you can see AI also in a different light, which is what Sam is saying here. And it could be a sort of a superpower. See it this way. If you have 90, 92 IQ, with AI, you can probably get an extra 10 points. You can probably get up to 110, 114 in IQ. This is because at the present stage, and maybe because we're not in artificial general intelligence yet, AI is just a tool. So it's not something that is able to simulate consciousness. It's more like a super intelligent computer, if you can see it that way. You ask questions and it does jobs for you, but you need to double check what are the results because it does make mistakes. And also, sometimes it's the equivalent of having a calculator where you still need to know what formula to input. It's not something that magically will do even 90% of a job for you. It's more like a tool.
I think it'll be easy to rise to that occasion.
So this impressed me too. I asked it to imagine Charlie Brown as thinking of himself as an AI. He went with this. Thought this was actually rather profound. What do you think? The writing quality on some of the new models, not just here, but in detail, is really going to a new level.
Yeah, this is an incredible meta answer, but there's really no way to know if it is thinking that or it just saw that a lot of times in the training set. And of course, like, if you can't tell the difference, how much do you care?
So that's really interesting. We don't know. Isn't there though, at first glance, this looks like IP theft. Do you guys have a deal with the United States? Oh,
You can comment about that all you want. Enjoy. I will say that I think the creative spirit of humanity is an incredibly important thing. And we want to build tools that lift that up, that make it so that new people can create better art, better content, better novels that we all enjoy. I believe very deeply that humans will be at the center of that. I also believe that we probably do need to figure out some sort of new model around the economics of creative output.
It is also important to notice that when talking about creative output, especially when we ask ChatGPT to do a drawing, for example, to explain maybe a complicated concept that we want to teach to somebody, and I see this being a really good application in the educational environment. Sam is rightfully pointing to the stuff about we don't know like how much of this actually comes straight from training material or it's a mix of different things. He's saying ChatGPT is not reasoning, is recycling data, compiling data, creating a result which is mostly the product of the outcome of a lot of training, because ultimately AI needs to be trained, and the more models you give to AI, the more the output quality increases.
People have been building on the creativity of others for a long time. People take inspiration for a long time. But as this creativity gets incredibly democratized, and people are building off of each other's ideas all the time. I think there are incredible new business models that we and others are excited to explore. Exactly what that's going to look like, I'm not sure. Clearly, there's some cut and dry stuff, like you can't copy someone else's work. But how much inspiration can you take? If you say, I want to generate art in the style of these 7 people, all of whom have consented to that, how do you like divvy up how much money goes to each one? These are like big questions. But every time throughout history, we have put better and more powerful technology in the hands of creators. I think we collectively get better creative output and people do just more amazing stuff.
Now, we are actually living in a time where technology is slowly making life easier for content creators. And I'm saying this because I am myself involved in the creative industry, and I've been involved with music and any sort of entertainment, from fashion to movies. Like, I've been surrounded by creatives since I was 16. So I saw the actual change in the creative industry starting from the late 90s up to now, which are almost in 2020, in 2030. Like, we're actually like in the third decade of the new millennium. So one thing that I noticed is that usually what happens is that a new technology is thrown out. So people use a new technology. And because of the nature of the audience, which is the population that don't have any creative output, because only the minority of population are actually creative people. Majority of people consume products. They don't manufacture, they don't have creative ideas to the extent of building a business around it or going actually out and performing or manifesting their creativity. So to sustain industry or economic that is based on creative output, while we have an exponential growth from the technology side, it's a challenge that, as far as we are aware, always imply years and years of loss for the creators. There's just no way of making it being better, at least up to now. And I'll give you a very practical example. If you release movies or music, or you are a photographer, and somebody use your work without your permission on a platform like YouTube, which we're using right now, I can guarantee you 100% that there is a lot of unauthorized use of copyright content online and on YouTube, which is still not tracked or still has massive issues. And this amplifies exponentially when you include art that comes from very big emerging markets like China, India, and so forth. Between the bureaucracy and the legal aspects, which are ancient and outdated, the advent of AI is going to clash really hard. And it will definitely open a Pandora's box where we are going to see an increase of content which is mass produced, basically using tools like Suno or Sora. And the more they become available, and it doesn't really matter if there is a high price tag, because I'm sure that there will be competitors that will develop the same type of tools at a more accessible price than OpenAI. It will become a race to who has the most affordable and high quality AI tools that people can use. Thinking about mixing audio, editing video, fixing photos, creating deepfakes, cloning books, cloning manuscripts. There's so many issues about AI copying, recycling, and cloning content made by humans, which it doesn't mean that is not good in the case where AI makes the content better or more accessible. But the issue is, and this is what Sam is saying, we will need a new economy, a new system in order to make sure that people have some sort of reward. I don't know if it's going to be money. It could be cryptocurrency. It could be a digital currency. It could be a token. It could be some other form where the system acknowledges your input, not your ownership of something, because the whole concept of copyright will probably have to be reviewed in the next few years. I just quoting people like Elon Musk saying that we're going to have domestic robots within the next 4 or 5 years. Now, obviously, Elon Musk is most of the times over optimistic, but whoever is born after the year 2010 will have to explore and face a completely different system if they are content creators or creatives.
An even bigger question is when they haven't consented to it. In our opening session, Carol Cadwalader showed ChatGPT give their talk in the style of Carol Cadwalader, and sure enough, it gave a talk that wasn't quite as good as the talk she gave, but it's pretty impressive. And she said, okay, it's great. I did not consent to this. How are we going to navigate this? Isn't there a way, should it just be people who consented, or shouldn't there be a model that somehow says that any named individual in a prompt whose work is then used, they should get something for that?
So right now, if you use our image gen thing and say, I want something in the style of a living artist, it won't do that. But if you say, I want it in the style of this particular vibe or this studio or this or movement or whatever, it will. And obviously, if you're like, I'll put a song that is like a copy of the song, it won't do that. The question of like where that line should be and how people say this is too much, we sorted it out before with copyright law and kind of what fair use looks like. Again, I think in the world of AI, there will be a new model that we figure out.
From the point of the world's full of it's creative people are some of the angriest people right now, or the most scared people about AI. And the difference between feeling your work's being stolen from you and your future is being stolen from you, and feeling your work is being amplified and can be amplified, those are such different feelings. And if we could shift to the other one, to the second one, that really changes how much humanity as a whole embraces all this.
I'd say some creative people are very upset. I feel like this is the most amazing tool ever. Do incredible new work. Like a change. And I have a lot of empathy to people who are just like, I wish this change wasn't happening. This is like the way things were before.
Now, obviously, Sam is not the right person to ask a question like that. And he's a technology entrepreneur. He has no clue about things like author rights, publishing rights, mechanical royalties, all the stuff that creatives have to deal with in order to get paid, let alone the fact that I saw with my eyes between the late 90s and the early 2000s, the whole mess done just by introducing something like Napster or iTunes, and then Spotify arrived. When Spotify arrived, the whole music industry was completely, for a better word to say, messed up. You had a whole economy based on a physical medium, which were vinyl records and then CDs and tapes and all the kind of stuff. And then suddenly became a file, and you had to download the authorized file, the legal file, through iTunes. And then you had Napster coming and saying, like, we want to have free movies, free music, free ebooks, free for all. And obviously, it was something that created a lot of discomfort in the entertainment industry. But Spotify made streaming and the whole subscription-based business model legit, which is crazy because now there are money in the music industry. Not the same amount of money as 30 years ago, because music is 100% accessible anywhere, anyway, and is not a commodity. It's something that you almost have to put your hands on your ears if you don't want to listen to music. It's literally everywhere, which obviously for people that are not music lovers, it made the whole music experience less magical and unique, becoming something more accessible. It also completely shifted the mindset of people that they were used to say, I need to take the time to listen to this record. Do I really want to buy this record because it's going to cost me money? Now you can just subscribe to Tidal, Deezer, Spotify, and have the feeling, because it's just a feeling, that you can access music anywhere, and there's so much offer out there, you're not going to even have the time. You need to have an algorithm to tell you what to listen to. And YouTube, which is actually a video platform, became the destination for free music, because you don't even have to log in into YouTube to watch videos, and therefore even stream music in the form of cover artworks with a song, a whole full album, or even authorized releases. That completely synced the whole music industry, jobs lost, and at the same time, the technology became good enough to allow creatives to make a whole record for a third of the price, and sometimes even less than what used to be the cost of producing a whole album. Now, in this economy, the consumer is in heaven, is the king, because you can literally have a TV, a whole TV in the palm of your hands. You have internet on a smartphone, on a tablet, on a computer, wherever you go. This is high quality entertainment. You just need to know where to go or what app to use, but you can access high quality entertainment literally at the tip of your fingers. Now, you tell me when you're going to introduce also AI into the equation, how low the boat is going to sink, like really low, because we are going to have, and this is pretty much clear also by this conversation, people that are going to say, oh, the past was the best, which is the same thing that happened when Napster was introduced, or when Spotify became one of the most, if not the most used streaming platform in the world for music. It's definitely one of the top ones. But that happened so fast that the creative world was like, we don't know what to do. I do have, obviously, not a solution, but an opinion about what could be one of the future directions for music and for entertainment. For sure, in the next 10 years, if you have a great show, you're a great live entertainer, if you make an honest and authentic connection with people that honestly like what you're doing and believe in you, no machine will be able to replace you for a while. I don't know, maybe 15 years, we're going to have something that can replace humans, like conscious robots that will reincarnate and be the next Frank Sinatra. I don't know if people will be able to relate to that, but it will be a completely different generation. So what I can say right now, seeing what is happening, is definitely live performance, live talks, the return maybe of theater, ballet, getting together, networking, talking to people, meeting randomly people. All this is just going to stay with us for a while. A whole different story is how to monetize that. That's a whole different story.
So, in principle, you can calculate from any given prompt how much, there should be some way of being able to calculate what percentage of a subscription revenue or whatever goes towards each answer. In principle, it should be possible if one could get the rest of the rules figured out. And it's obviously complicated. You could calculate some kind of revenue share. No?
If you're a musician and you spend your whole life, your whole childhood, whatever, listening to music, and then you get an idea and you go compose a song that is inspired for a new direction, it'd be very hard for you to say, this much was from this song I heard when I was 11, this much when I was...
That's right. But we're talking here about the situation where someone specifically in a prompt names someone.
Yes. Again, right now, if you try to go generate an image in a name style, we just say that or slid, we don't do it. But I think it would be cool to figure out a new model where if you say, I want to do it in the name of this artist and they opt in, there's a revenue model there. Okay. I think that's a good thing to explore.
So I think the world should help you figure out that model quickly, and I think it'll make a huge difference, actually. I want to switch topics quickly.
This is a very good point, and I'm glad that Sam brought up the example of a musician. There is a massive difference, obviously. He is not making a distinction between a human and a machine. One thing is a human that literally dedicated their whole life in order to compose music and craft a skill. Another thing is a cold, unaware, unconscious algorithm in a bunch of transistors and whatever makes up a machine that just chunks numbers and gives an emotion to another human, but is machine to human, is not human to human, which is a massive difference. I do see a future maybe where we're going to have a made by human mandatory watermark on products. Is it going to make a difference? Probably no. Maybe the AI products will going to be cheaper than man-made products, human-made products, whatever you want to call them. But I definitely think that there's still a lot of confusion about how to make this more, not more legitimate, but just more fair. And there is another problem. The problem is that we're having these amazing technologies being accessible to the public while we haven't even fixed the issues that we still have from 10 years ago. One issue being why everybody has the same level of access to distribute their art. I know it sounds crazy, but this is the price of democracy in technology. Giving the same level of access to Spotify, to iTunes, to Deezer, it literally created millions and millions of songs that have 0 streams or 1 stream. What is the point of that? There is a point for the pocket and the profit of Spotify, Deezer, and so forth. Totally understand that. It's a business model. They look at the consumers. But when it comes down to the mess, the rubbish that they put online and completely devaluate the actual assets, the very assets that they are using to profit, which is music, it clearly shows that we are getting near the end of the streaming era.
The battle between your model and open source, how much were you shaken up by the arrival of DeepSeek?
I think open source has an important place. We actually just last night hosted our first community session to decide the parameters of our open source model and how we want to shape it. We're going to do a very powerful open source model. I think this is important. We're going to do something new at the frontier, I think better than any current open source model out there. This will not be all. There will be people who use this in ways that some people, maybe you or I, don't like. There is going to be an important place for open source models as part of the constellation here. And I think we were late to act on it. Well,
You're spending, it seems, like an order or even orders of magnitude more than DeepSeek allegedly spent, although I know there's controversy around that. Are you confident that the actual better model is going to be recognized, or are you actually, isn't this in some ways life-threatening to the notion that, yeah, by going to massive scale, tens of billions of dollars investment, lead?
All day long, I call people and beg them to give us their GPUs. We are so incredibly constrained. Our growth is going like this. DeepSeek launched and it didn't seem to impact it. There's other stuff that's happening.
The price, actually, you gave me a shocking number backstage there.
I've never seen growth in any company like this, like the growth of ChatGPT. It's really fun. I feel like deeply honored, but it is crazy to live through, and our teams are exhausted and stressed, and we're trying to keep things up.
How many users do you have?
I think the last time we said was 500 million weekly actives, and it is growing very fast.
So it's 500 million users, about 500 million users. Now we're probably at the tip of the iceberg, literally, for AI. We're at the infancy stage of AI for the AI where the tools are available to the public, because artificial intelligence has been around for ages, for a long time. But for tools that are available to the public, we are at a very early stage, and there's about 500 million people out there that are really interested in using it, from businesses to private users. Now, one thing which Sam is definitely concerned with is how long it's going to take before we are going to finish the resources. We're going to be unable, basically, to cope with the fact that AI takes a lot of power, not just the people, energy, and intelligence and focus, but actually a lot of power. Probably AI itself will figure out a way to optimize power consumption to a level where not many humans will need to be involved. Is it going to happen with ChatGPT and Suno and Sora and all the AI products or services? Or is going to be something that first will happen maybe on a more private level, like for government uses or indoors uses, rather than commercially available to the public uses, which is most of the times what happens.
We doubled in just a few weeks. And like in terms of compute intensively, but I guess. Oh. I misremembered Sam. So you really want to. No one here would tell you.
It's growing very fast.
So you're confident, you're seeing it grow, take off like a rocket ship, you're releasing incredible new models all the time. What are you seeing in your best internal models right now that you haven't yet shared with the world, but you would love to hear on this stage?
So first of all, you asked about, were we worried about this model and that model? There will be a lot of intelligent models in the world. Very smart models will be commoditized to some degree. I think we'll have the best, and for some use, you'll want that. But honestly, the models are now so smart that for most of the things most people want to do, they're good enough. I hope that'll change over time because people will raise their expectations, but you're using...
I'm going to speed up the playback to 125. Also because I am seeing that the camera is eating up. I'm using a Sony ZV-1 and I'm thinking about upgrading, which I'll probably do pretty soon, maybe at the end of next month. Thank you, Sony, for this great camera, but when it comes down to do long recordings or being, in a place where the temperature is not cold, it eats up pretty fast. So I might have to pause this video and start from wherever I left on YouTube. But let's try to speed up the whole thing because this is a 45 minutes talk.
ChatGPT is like a standard user. The model capability is very smart, but we have to build a great, which is a great model. And there'll be a lot of cool models. And we will try to build the best product. And people want their image gen. So some Sora examples video earlier. They want to do other stuff. We just launched a new feature still called memory, but it's way different than the memory before, where this model will get to know you over the course of your lifetime. We have a lot more stuff to come to build like this great integrated product. And so there'll be many models, but I think we will continue to focus on building the best in the space.
After I saw your announcement yesterday that you...
This is a really important point. ChatGPT allows to memorize what you say and what you write, to the extent that even if it doesn't store the actual audio files of you talking to ChatGPT, and I've been doing this for a few months lately, ChatGPT starts to say things about me that I forgot, which it means it can create a profile out of what you ask or what you say. Now, I don't know how much of that is under the control of the user or how much of that he leaks. That's a domain for people into conspiracies. Some people say that we've been spied throughout social media like TikTok and so forth for years and years. But this is an actual tool where it does tell you, hey, do you want me to spy on you? Do you want me to record everything you're saying? Because I'm creating a profile about you. Think about somebody that has been using ChatGPT for 30 years, like in 2060, for example. ChatGPT, if continues to grow at this rate and can actually sustain the demand of resources, will probably be able for maybe certain pro members, like people that buy really expensive memberships that might not even exist at the moment or in the near future, you will probably be able to clone you as an avatar. So if the whole Mark Zuckerberg theory of creating a metaverse and having us living in an alternative reality then we can probably clone ourselves in the metaverse, and the personality of the avatar, look, will be ready because we've been building, we've been feeding information about us, including behavior and interest, to the point that the algorithm is already able to forecast what we want. It's not anymore suggesting, it's actually, somehow being able to know in advance what you want. Think about if you power that with AI, and then it can even predict your behavior or what you're going to ask. We're not too close to have something like that happening almost on a regular daily basis in a very, like, so under our eyes that we can't even ignore it, even if we're completely stupid.
Now ChatGPT will know all of your query history. I entered, tell me about me, ChatGPT, from what you know. And my jaw dropped. He knew who I was and all these sort of interests that hopefully mostly were pretty much appropriate and shareable, but it was astonishing. And I felt a sense of real excitement, a little bit queasy, but mainly excitement actually, at how much more that would allow it to be useful to me.
One of our researchers tweeted kind of like yesterday, this morning, that the upload happens that you plug your brain in one day, because you will, the ChatGPT, the course of your life, someday, maybe if you want, they'll be listening to you throughout the day. And
that's exactly what we were saying. And I don't know if it's in Sam's personality, but sometimes he looks a bit worried about certain questions. And I think because he doesn't know himself the consequences of all this. He is directly involved in being labeled as a pioneer and as the responsible for all this. But at the same time, I don't actually have a clear idea of what will be the impact of something like that. I can keep things good, but who knows?
Observing what you're doing, and it'll get to know you, and it'll become this extension of yourself, this companion, this thing that just tries to help you be the best, do the best you can.
In the movie, the AI basically announces that she's read all of his emails and decided he's a great writer and persuades a publisher to publish him. It's becoming sooner than we think.
But yeah, I think something in the direction where AI, you don't have to just go to ChatGPT or whatever and say a question, give me an answer, but you're getting like proactively push things that help you, that make you better, whatever. It does seem like it soon.
So what have you seen that's coming up internally that you think is going to blow people's minds? Give us at least a hint of what the next stage or dropout is.
The thing that I'm personally most excited about is AI for science at this point. I think I am a big believer that the most important driver of the world and people's lives getting better and better is new scientific discovery. We can do more things with less, reach back to what's possible. We're starting to hear a lot from scientists with our latest models that they're actually more for it's actually mattering to what they can discover.
What's a plausible near-term discovery like?
It's very much
Yes, connecting. Yeah.
Is that possible? I think it's like tremendous bonus of physics, so it should be possible.
Yeah.
I think you'll start to see some meaningful progress against disease with AI-assisted tools. Take a little bit longer, but wait for it. One direction. Another that I think is big is starting pretty soon, like in the coming months. Software development has already been pretty transformed. Like, it's quite amazing how different the process of creating software is now than it was 2 years ago. And I expect another move that big in the coming months as agentic software engineering really start to happen.
I've heard engineers say that they've had almost like religious-like moments with some of the new models where suddenly they can do enough